You're listening to Blue Collar CEO, the podcast that's all about helping you build a better, more profitable, and more sustainable home service business. Each week, we'll cover a different topic that will help enable your company to move forward to success. And here's your host, Ryan Redding.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It is Ryan. It is awesome to be with you again today. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for taking time to stop by and listen to our show. If you haven't done it yet, it would mean a world if this show is remotely helpful to you. If you're driving down the road, you enjoy listening to every episode as it comes on, would you take a second, leave us a review wherever you're listening? I really do want to make sure that we know that we are doing good stuff for you. And if you have any ideas, any guests, any topics you want to hear about, shoot us an email, info@BlueCollar.CEO. Would love to hear from you. Today, I'm going to introduce you to Jim Bergmann. Jim is the president of measureQuick. He also can read and understand a psychrometric chart. If you are nerdy in the HVAC space, you probably know what that is. And this guy is a disruptor of everything HVAC. We're going to be talking a lot about a tool called measureQuick, which in the HVAC space is a standardization of measurements in the HVAC business. And it's one of these really powerful ways that you can use technology to help your business provide better value to your customers and be more profitable. Let me introduce you to Jim. All right, Jim, I am really glad you're able to take the time to join us today. And I know you've had a busy day so far, so thanks for making space for us. But I guess maybe for those who don't yet know who you are and what you do, let's just start there. Who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Jim Bergmann, and I've actually been in the industry since I was probably about 2 or 3 years old, riding with my dad in the truck on Saturdays. Mostly doing commercial industrial work. This is my background. So it's things like 70 to 700 tons, primarily built up systems. But then at probably around year 15, I became a high school teacher. Right? The vocational school that I actually went to school at had an opening, and instructor was retiring. My instructor actually was retiring, and applied, saw the paper, applied for the job, got the job, and spent 12 years in education. And so it was probably the time I learned the most about what I did for a living. I found out I did not know near as much as I thought I knew when I started teaching kids. I found
Teaching
out that
is hard. It brings that out of you. Like you start realizing really quickly what gaps you have and where you think you're smart, and often like falls on its face. And when kids ask you some of the most basic things, you realize that how complex some of their questions are, and then you start to sweat uncontrollably because you're realizing you're nervous because you don't know what you're doing. But eventually, I got past all that and started doing some work for Testo and helping them with because as I'm teaching, I'm realizing the math and the science didn't work. This is sort of an important part of my career because I was really big into trying to troubleshoot equipment, but the science wasn't working. And when I'm at Testo, I finally found instruments that made the science work. And that sort of led me down to this path of developing software where we're at today. So it was sort of taking all the measurements from those really good tools and putting them into a software program that could help especially entry-level technicians, diagnose fairly complex problems very quickly and then standardize the way that it was being done so that we get really consistent results. So yeah, for those, because there's a lot of people who are listening right now who might not be in the HVAC space. So there might be plumbers, there might be pest control. For those maybe who don't understand what you just packed into a really quick elevator pitch, how would you describe measureQuick to like my mom?
Oh, so I would say it's.
By the way, this is probably a good time to say my mom is deaf, so I expect some amount of interpreted that she's not.
Of hands, okay,
yeah. So sock puppets are welcome.
It's I would say it's a standardization process that we're taking the value away from the technician and putting it into the company. And what I mean by that is a lot of companies have that ace in the hole technician. They know everything. They get everything figured out. Well, and they go, how can we duplicate that guy? Well, that guy is the guy that follow, even if he doesn't realize it, he or she, they follow a standard. In other words, they're the people that are really thorough. They read the installation manual. They follow the directions. They set up everything the way it's supposed to be set up. And they follow this process. And then following that process, they become the rock star technician in the company. And it's like, if the company owns that process, if the company actually develops or owns the standard of how that work is done, then no matter whether it's the best technician or the greenest technician, they're going to get very consistent outcome and the quality for their customer. So I'd explain it to your mom. What I would tell her is, listen, no matter what technician we send out here, that the quality of the installation is going to be very consistent because we follow a standard practice and the way that it's installed and the way that it's set up and the way that it's tested or commissioned to make sure that that we always have 100% on our quality, anytime, any day of the week.
That makes sense because I was actually just talking to someone about this the other day about the idea of Starbucks came up because they were complaining about how they could never find the right help. It takes forever to train, and even then, all the customers like this particular tech and not this. Like it was just this. It was a scatter shot of who was getting what, and there was just no consistency. And Starbucks was mentioned because it doesn't matter if you like Starbucks or not. Every Starbucks you go to in the world tastes the same. The process is the same. They burn their bean. The coffee is going to have various degrees of acidity, but you know exactly what it's going to taste like. You know exactly what it's going to be like, and that sort of predictability to know every time any technician wearing your company logo goes into a customer's house, the customer is going to get the same experience, that they're going to have the same output. That sort of thing is the basis for scale. Like that's what's going to allow a company to go from 5 to 10 to 20 to 50 to 200 techs because it's consistent and it's predictable and it's repetitive and you can measure it and monitor it and improve it. And it's absolutely a really important tool to have in any business. But measureQuick, I love how it kind of has that all kind of caked into it.
Well, and it does, the measurement process is one thing, but it also gives you visibility because, we're able to stream data from the field to any interested party that wants to view the data remotely. So now you can do this QA/QC process where you can actually see in real time how the equipment's running. You have, with smartphones today, we have voice, we have video, we have text, we have all this visibility, but then we have now real-time readings. So as the data is coming off the Bluetooth tools, it's going into the technician's device, it's streaming up to the cloud, then back down to the viewing party's device. And so we can be, really proactive instead of reactive because now if the superheat's not right or the airflow is not right or the static pressure is too high, we can get that problem resolved before the technician leaves and it creates a callback or it creates a premature equipment failure. I mean, the last thing you want to do is service the equipment you just installed, right? Because that's a huge tax on a business.
Right. No, totally. And obviously that's something that seems like a tool like measureQuick would be really advantageous for companies. What sort of contractors and companies do you feel like are more inclined to adopt a platform like measureQuick? Are the companies who do that, are they a certain sort of revenue threshold? Do they have a certain amount of techs? Are they typically tech savvy? Like, how would you define the people who get the most impact out of measureQuick?
So that's a whole story in itself because we initially, when we started the company, we started really marketing to technicians. And because I'm a technician, I've been a technician my entire life. So we built this whole product out. It's an awesome technician tool. And at one day, I don't know, maybe about 2 years ago, we realized, wow, technicians are never going to pay us any money. They're actually not our customer. We need to get to their bosses to get the system implemented because we were marketing just to the wrong person. And then we really started to explore, well, what's the demographic of person that wants to use a product like this? So we found out very quickly it was customers that had a CRM were the ideal client for us because they were already using technology like smartphones or tablets. Their technicians already knew how to manage things like battery life all day because they were carrying this around and using it as a tool. They had gotten past the point of if you can do if you can integrate Service Titan into your business, you can integrate measureQuick, because Service Titan's a heavy lift when it comes to setting it up, and it comes to training people how to use it, and it comes to just the processes that are involved. So we found that like those customers that had already made that transition to adopting a CRM were ideal, because also with a CRM integration, we could eliminate the duplicate data input. So things like customer information, phone number, email, information we gather for that report to personalize it for the customer. Now we didn't have to duplicate that data. But that said, it doesn't matter. Like, we have customers that are as big as 1,000 technicians, and we have one-man shops on measureQuick. And what really comes down to is companies looking to increase their revenue per ticket, because one of the biggest problems we have in our industry today is, we spend all these marketing dollars. We might spend $250 to $300 just to get a tech to the door. A lot of technicians don't understand what it costs just to get to the door. And, the typical MO today is, technician goes out there, pops the cover off Mrs. Jones' unit, sees the capacitor's bad, writes an invoice up for $350, and it's a break-even call for the company. And they miss the charge problem. They miss the airflow problem. They miss the condensate line problem. They miss the dirty condenser. They miss the dirty filter, or whatever it is, because they didn't follow a process to assure that they tested the entire system. They didn't check some vitals, let's say, and they more or less solved the problem to get it running again. But it doesn't mean it's running right. It doesn't mean it's running efficiently. Right. It doesn't mean it's going to have longevity. And they're likely going to be out on a callback a few weeks later. And so that was like, for our ideal customer, it was the people that realized what they spent on marketing, that realized what it cost to get to the door, that realized what it's like not to find every opportunity and have lost sales, that realize that technicians are overly empathetic, and they a lot of times think out of their pocketbook instead of their customers. In other words, they assume that because they wouldn't change a 20-year-old piece of equipment that looks like it's operating, that their customer shouldn't do it either. And so they don't offer the opportunity, because they don't understand, that the savings the customer might see by putting a new piece of equipment in, service calls and energy and, other things. And maybe they're just, but they don't, if you can't identify the opportunity, you can't present the solution. And so what our job with measureQuick was is really to make sure all the opportunities are identified, that now the technician can present them, but also take onus off the technician and put it on the software. Mrs. Jones, I just ran a scan on your system. measureQuick came back with these things. It looks like you might also be a candidate for an early retirement of this system, or retirement of the system, because it is scoring a 60% and it is 20 years old. Now it's becomes more of a less opinionated from the technician, and more the onus is put on the software to help convey that message.
Yeah, and I think customers like that too, because not knocking technicians, but it's clear, like, there might be trust factors. It might be like, oh, well, of course you're going to say something's broken. It's like if somebody going to a mechanic and dropping off your car, of course you're magically going to find problems, like, surprise. But when you have a tool like measureQuick, where it's like, it's showing you the data, it's kind of dashboard out, it seems less manipulatable. Is that the word?
Yeah,
it
that's
seems
the word.
more honest. Yeah, I just made up a word. If it's not a word, I just made one. Thank you,
No,
English.
that's a big that's probably one of our biggest challenges in software development, is data integrity, and making sure that like, we look at thousands of tests a year and look at how technicians are using our tool, and it's not so much that they're trying to game the system as they make mistakes, and things like probe placement. Like, a lot of technicians maybe haven't measured static pressure in their career. And one of the things we do in measureQuick is measure static pressure. And if they measure it in the wrong location, it may not show, problems that actually exist. So we try and look at How can we assist technicians in proper probe placement? How can we assist them in proper assessment of what's wrong with the system? How can we assess them? How can we help them with communicating that back to the customer? Because there's a lot of soft skills that are involved that aren't really developed until you have a few years under your belt. So, and with that visibility too, like now an owner can see in real time that, how that system's running in the field, and then sort of step in with a professional salesperson that can help now transition it from a service call to a sale if it's the right candidate for that. But it gives the consumer enough information that there's a certain level of comfort that now they're willing to have that conversation, because the technician's not the one with the opinion. It's the software saying, yeah, this is a good candidate.
Yeah. And it's so cool how it uses different sorts of, like the other thing, like with measureQuick, which is notable, is you do have a wide variety of partners and integrations that are supported. So it doesn't matter if someone's on House Call or Service Titan, you play nicely with that data. You integrate with smartac.com. We've had Josh on our show previously. Really, really solid platform. But you even have like partners like Redfish, and all these like JB, for instance. You have these different partners that are really notable. It's helpful to know like measureQuick is not a small one-off device. It's not going to be a faulty, unsupported platform. It's not going to be full of headaches. You're on really, really legit partnerships, and you have some really amazing HVAC companies who currently use it. In fact, some of them we've had on our show, like Chad Simpson at Simpson Salute. We've had Chad on previously, and he raves about measureQuick. So it's a really robust tool that you've been able to develop and build out. And I really hope a lot of companies are able to see the impact it can have for not only their business, but for the customers in the process.
Yeah, it's that part of it's not been without its challenges, because we have a different model for how our software is used. So, our model is it's $5 per system per year, right? So, and what that means, like just to give you an example, a technician goes out on a service call, finds the equipment's faulty. It's a candidate for replacement. So that the $5 is paid when they do that project. Now that's designed to be a pass through to the consumer, right? It's not designed. The company should not pay anything for that. But then that project is updated when they do the new installation, and then they could commission the air conditioning. They could come out later that fall and do the furnace. No additional charge for that. They could have a callback. No additional charge for that. The project's open for 365 days. After 365 days, we close that project up. And then we retain that information. And if they come out, we don't charge anything for the years they don't use it. And 3 years later, they come back out, they can pull that project down, pull down the benchmark, pull down the photo documentation, pull down all the information about that system, compare the operation today to what it was 3 years ago, see how the system is either maintaining or degrading in performance, and then, generate reports and put all that stuff up there again. So the challenge for us is the first thing somebody does is they go, oh, I do, 15,000 projects a year, and this is going to cost me X. And it's like, what they don't look at is, for a typical contractor, we're increasing revenue per ticket 40 to 60%. And it's because we're finding more opportunities per job. We're finding the problems that technicians are overlooking. 70 to 90% of systems have at least one fault. And if you include duct leakage, it goes to 90 to 100% of systems have a fault that is undiagnosed today that are operating. And you got to ask yourself, are your techs finding them that way, or are they leaving them that way? If they're going out on tune-ups and they aren't finding these faults, you're leaving revenue on the table. And some places like one of our customers, Ray L. Cook out in California, they started identifying that they had undersized filter racks because they started using measureQuick. And so they have two guys that pretty much daily install secondary returns and filter grills in these systems, because they get in these giant developments in California, all put in by the same builder, all put in by the same HVAC contractor, all with the same issues. And so all they need to do now is identify it and then offer the solution to the homeowner. And it's not that they're going to, immediately select every every option that you give them. But if you don't find the problem, you never have the opportunity to present it. And that's so, and we can show once we're done the impact that it had on the system performance. And that's a huge thing for a contractor to be able to show that the service that they provided actually, changed the performance of that system, that enough that they can measure that and the homeowner can see that, and they can see their grade go from a C to an A, or a D to a B, or whatever it is, but they can see that there was benefit to the service that they provided. And you couple that with smart AC, and we're really trying to promote the 2-to-1 or one and done, meaning that you, instead of doing 2 visits a year, you use technology to monitor that system after it's commissioned with measureQuick, and you provide the service when it's actually needed. And I always tell people, you can imagine you go out and you wash a condenser coil, and a week later the cottonwood flies and plugs the coil up again. You're going back out for a callback. It wasn't your fault. You needed to clean the condenser when the condenser got dirty, not the week beforehand when you hosed it down as just because you felt like you should, because the consumer needs to see they're getting something for their money, right? And so we go out and do this maintenance, and we do it at the wrong time. And it's like with technology today, we can do the maintenance at the right time, identify all the opportunities with the software, increase the revenue per ticket, not have the unneeded truck rolls. It's just, there's so many opportunities either to save money or to make money if you leverage technology, that companies are just crazy if they don't at least investigate these types of solutions for their business.
No, I couldn't agree more. So let's say somebody is an HVAC, they hear measureQuick, they hear I talk about, they go, this might make a lot of sense. If they wanted to investigate you to see if this made sense for their shop, what's the best way for someone to learn more?
So the best way to learn more is, measureQuick.com. We have a website that's really tailored around contractors now that'll walk you through the whole process of getting started with it. I think one of the interesting things to do is to ask how many of your technicians use it. We actually, just a little sidebar, we had a company the other day that had about 500 techs. And I said, we probably have a lot of your technicians on measureQuick. And they're like, no, our guys do this. I'm sure they're not using it. So I just searched by their domain. We had 150 of their technicians on our platform.
That's crazy.
We have 92,000, I think, techs right now that have downloaded and used measureQuick at all varying levels. So I think the cool thing is, like, if you're a business owner and you go to integrate this into your business, odds are one or more of your techs are already using our product. So you already have a measureQuick champion. And that's a big part of it is technician buy-in, right? So we have a huge audience that use our tool voluntarily. And I think that speaks a lot on its own. When you have technicians using it because it makes their job easier, makes their job faster, makes their job better, raises their level of comfort with the consumer. They're actually doing things right, helping them on diagnostics. When they see the benefit, now it becomes a lot less of your technicians embrace it instead of push back, so this is a lot different than like putting GPSs on your truck, right? You're not going to tick a bunch of people off. You're actually, a lot of them are like, oh, this is awesome. They've been wanting to use the full suite of services with measureQuick, and now they get the opportunity to. So we, and the other big thing I think is training. We have an LMS that we have built out. We have usually on average 600 to 700 people in the LMS a month learning about measureQuick and learning about how to service equipment, what they do for a living. And the primary thing is like proper probe placement. So one of the things you don't want to do is go out and buy 10 toolkits for your 10 technicians, give them a tablet, download measureQuick and say, here, go at it, have fun, use measureQuick, because you will fall flat on your face.
Right.
Because you have to have some training along with that. So like we do webinars, we'll do a webinar with your employees and walk them through the basics of measureQuick. We have quick start guides. We have a really robust support section. We have an LMS, and it's just like Service Titan. It takes effort, but for a typical shop of let's say 10 to 20 techs, you're talking about a 2-week process to really get it up and really get comfortable and going with measureQuick. For a shop that's 600-700 techs, they take about a year to get fully onboarded, because you have to train all the technicians, and then also you have turnover in a shop that big. So you might have 75 to 100 techs that you replace over the course of the year that are leave or go or whatever, that you have to now retrain new guys coming. So it's sort of like a continuous training thing. But again, once you put that process in place, once you have that standardization in your company, now when you hire that new guy, he's as good as one of your most seasoned people, because the software makes sure that we have very consistent results. And that's what's so critical, if, like you said earlier, to scale. Scaling is all about having standardizations in place, standard processes. And we always talk, Ken Gettle's one of our customers, and he talks about Gettleization. Gettleization is standardization. And that's what he has mastered when he does these acquisitions, is he walks in and he says, okay, I'm going to take processes that I use at this store. I'm going to put them on over at this location because I know these processes work. And, he's become a master of that standardization. So you're seeing a lot of groups doing what he's doing, which is Chad Simpson's another one. Chad's made a ton of acquisitions, and Chad goes in and he just standardizes the way that they do business. He does, this, everybody comes in and does training at the Simpson training facilities. I mean, he spent, I don't think Chad will mind me saying this, but he spent $40,000 in man hours last year reading the manual on a furnace for the first time, because
that's crazy.
He realized his technicians had never read a manual from cover to cover to actually, because they were saying, well, measureQuick's really hard. And one of the things, and I said, no, actually, you're not following the directions to commission a furnace. So Chad went through and he commissioned the furnace 100% by hand. And then he went through and commissioned it again with measureQuick. And he goes, oh, measureQuick's not hard. Commissioning a furnace is hard. We've never been doing it right. And it was like this epiphany for him. So he went back and he took all of his technicians through, and his technicians had epiphanies as they were going through, like, wow, we didn't know you couldn't run drains this way, or we didn't know you couldn't do this way, or we've never done this, right. And so he's elevating his whole workforce up, because now he's not only teaching them, how to use our software, but he's also teaching them why they need to be doing this stuff that they do. So that's eliminating callbacks, increasing customer satisfaction. It's reaping them benefits hand over fist. And that's why he's such a champion for it, because this solved a problem that he really didn't realize he had, and then how to solve it. And once he started implementing, I mean, Chad's a huge process guy. And once he started putting these processes in the field for measureQuick, it was like, okay, this is what we need. This is how we're going to fix the callbacks. This is how we're going to fix the dissatisfied customers. This is how we're going to fix, not finding the early retirement opportunities. This is just, it solved a lot of things for them, and solved a lot of things for Ken. And Ken, I think Ken had a lot of these things in place already, but he was using photo documentation, having his guys take photos. Well, photos can be reused. Photos can, you're not sure if they came off the job site. You're not, so again, putting a tool like ours in place just helped make those standards more achievable and easier and faster. So
absolutely,
training's critical.
And if there's one lesson, even if somebody's outside of HVAC and they made it this far to the conversation, like training and processes, that really is the key to a successful scaling business. And Chad does that well. Ken Gettle does that exceptionally well. It's just, that's the world. So if somebody wants to reach out to you, Jim, to learn more about measureQuick, what's the best way for somebody to reach you?
Jim at measureQuick.com.
Okay.
Yep. And it's just like it sounds, MEASUREQUICK. We have a good sized staff here we have people that do training. We have people that help with the onboarding. We have people that can help with getting your Service Titan account set up. We even have links for the tools, so toolkits and all that kind of stuff. We don't sell the tools, but we work with True Tech Tools, who packages a lot of those kits together. But you can buy tools from your local distributor or online, wherever we support. Doesn't matter. We do Testo, Fieldpiece, JB, Energy Conservatory, Redfish, AccuTools. We're bringing on other brands all the time, CPS, UEI. So there's a lot of different tool manufacturers that we support on our measureQuick app. So it's really becoming sort of a universal platform.
It really has. And I will make sure that measureQuick's website and your email is in the show notes. Jim, I know you're crazy busy. Thank you for taking time to stop by, man. Keep up the great work.
That was awesome. Thanks for the time too.
This episode was hosted by Ryan Redding, author of the book on digital marketing for plumbing and HVAC contractors, and founder of Levergy, the digital marketing solution for serious home service companies. You can subscribe to Blue Collar CEO on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit us online at BlueCollar.CEO and find us on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another awesome episode. See you soon.